A victory for President Obama as the Supreme Court allows the healthcare law to largely stand.
Whatever the politics, today's decision was a victory for people all over this country whose lives will be more secure because of this law and the Supreme Court's decision to uphold it.
This is a time of choice for the American people. Our mission is clear. If we want to get rid of Obamacare, we're going to have to replace President Obama.
Chief Justice John Roberts wrote the opinion, with Anthony Kennedy in dissent. I'm Megan Lieberman from the New York Times, and I'm joined now by David Leonhardt, our Washington bureau chief. So David.
Good afternoon, Megan.
Hi, David. So David, the Chief Justice wrote the opinion basically upholding the president's healthcare law. So basically boil down for me what the court said first on the individual mandate.
Well, first of all, you nailed the most surprising point of this whole thing. The Chief Justice upheld the president's healthcare law. And what they said specifically on the mandate, it was a little tricky. They essentially said Congress did not have the authority to mandate that all Americans have health insurance, but that didn't matter because Congress does have the authority to tax or penalize people who don't have health care insurance. And so the effect of that is essentially the same. They say that if you either have to get health insurance or you have to pay a penalty, just as the bill said.
Right, so it's a verbiage question, not a factual question.
That's right.
How about the expansion of Medicaid, which the law also required? There was some qualification of what was okay there, right?
Yeah, there were some significant qualifications. So what the original law did was it expanded Medicaid, which is the federal health insurance program for low-income and sick people. And it said we're going to expand Medicaid to the states, and states who administer the program, you must expand it, as we're telling you, and we'll give you some more money to pay for the expansion. And the state said that's not fair. You shouldn't coerce us in that way. And the Supreme Court, to some extent, sided with the states there, and they said that is in fact the case. And so states now, if they would prefer, they have sort of two choices here. They can expand it and get the extra money, or they can have it the way it used to be. And I think we're still waiting to see whether in fact states will take them up on that option, or whether most states will just go ahead and accept both the expansion and the extra money.
So David, how surprising is it that not just that Chief Justice Roberts wrote this opinion, but that it was a 5-4 decision that he wrote? We're so used to looking to Justice Kennedy to be the deciding vote here, aren't we?
Yeah, I find only one thing in this ruling truly surprising. I thought it was entirely plausible they would uphold the law. I thought it was plausible, if not likely, that the law wouldn't be a clean ruling, but would have some legal technicalities in it, just as it did. The one thing in it that really surprises me is that Roberts was the swing vote. A lot of people going into this thought this would either be a 5-4 ruling to get rid of the bill, or some portion of it, with the conservatives sticking together, the 5 justices appointed by Republican presidents, and the 4 Democratic appointees in dissent, or that Kennedy would swing to the liberals and that Roberts would essentially follow him, making it a 6-3 ruling that Robert wrote. The idea that Kennedy essentially decided to get rid of President Obama's healthcare law and that Roberts saved it is really quite surprising.
And Justice Kennedy, in fact, wrote a pretty stinging dissent. I'm just going to read a couple of lines of that. The act before us here exceeds federal power both in mandating the purchase of health insurance and in denying non-consenting states in all Medicaid funding. In our view, it must follow the entire statute is inoperative. It's just so amazing that he's not just in the dissent, but he wrote the dissent.
Yeah, that's right. It's really not what we have come to expect, and I think in many ways this will be a defining week for Roberts. It doesn't say this ends the Roberts story, but the story of the Roberts court has taken a substantial turn today. Now there are still some victories in here for conservatives. We mentioned the Medicaid expansion and how that was restricted. That could have long-term impacts on what the federal government can tell states, and the fact that they said the mandate as it is basically is not permissible could have implications in terms of what kinds of interstate commerce Congress can regulate.
David, is there anything in the opinion, in Chief Justice's opinion, that indicates that the court is concerned about being viewed as too politicized? That was a real conversation leading into this decision.
It was, and the court's approval ratings, if you look since 2000, Bush v. Gore, the court's approval ratings have fallen since then. They are not marginally higher than the president's, which at least in recent decades they usually have been. Look, I think we don't know. Of course, the Supreme Court talks about this all in terms of law. Of course, the justices on the court are also human beings. I'm not going to ascribe any kind of motive here. I think what you can say is that this almost certainly will improve Roberts' image to some extent with the left, if the left hasn't already decided their opinion on Roberts, and probably with the middle. And it sets up a really interesting few years in which the court is going to take on a series of other major issues in all likelihood: affirmative action, voting rights. And the question is, does Roberts go back right, or does he go follow the path that a number of Republican appointees before have followed, which is deeply disappointing the conservatives who supported their nomination to the court?
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
We'll have a lot more on the details of the court's ruling throughout the day, but now a look at the politics. I'm joined by our national correspondent, political correspondent, Jim Rutenberg. So Jim, politically speaking, is this about the best outcome that the president could have hoped for?
I guess the short answer is yes, in that if this had been invalidated, there was going to be a huge argument made from the other side that the signature piece of legislation of his administration was struck down. Okay, so there's no getting around that. They would rather have this than not have this. But the politics here, as you know, are a little more complicated than that.
Right. And as far as Mitt Romney is concerned, his answer on this is the same as the one he's been giving for the past couple of days, which is even if this is constitutional, it's still bad policy and it's got to go.
Yeah, and I'll pick up where I left off of here's the complication. So for Romney, the kind of silver lining in this, or better than silver lining, is he has a solid issue to run on in terms of repeal, and the base voters, the Tea Party activists, the people who have been wrapped up in the fight against this since Obama's almost been in office, they are riled up, they're ready to go, and now they really have even that much of a stronger argument to vote for Romney. But Governor Romney signed a very similar health care plan in Massachusetts that has kind of dogged his campaign ever since he announced it almost a year ago.
So how does this play out from here, Jim? It's obviously not clear that the Democrats or the president wants to run on health care at all. And in fact, we saw the president trying to pivot already today and say, like, we've been litigating this for 2 years now, let's stop and move on to jobs. So do they just try and punt and just say, we're done, change the subject?
I mean, I think that what they will do is keep trying to promote the parts of this law they say are popular, and some polls show are popular parts of the law. This is a law that in its parts is more popular than as a whole, where it's a loser, as the president himself said today in his statement. This is not a political winner for him. So he'll try to promote selectively those parts they think are more popular. He's not going to be central to, at this point, it doesn't look like it will be central to his campaign argument. Romney will run to repeal. Now, Romney is in a box here because the one little gift that the Supreme Court did give to the Tea Party activists and to conservative opponents here is by calling this a tax. The Obama administration never wanted to call this a tax. But the
president actually said in 2009, it's not a tax, right?
He said outright it's not a tax. They didn't argue this was a tax. It's their primary argument before the court. They argued this was a Commerce Clause issue. So Romney himself today did not seize on the tax comments, unlike his Hill colleagues who did, because Romney doesn't want the mandate in Massachusetts to be defined as a tax as well.
And we know this is going to keep playing out on the Hill. I mean, we've already had Eric Cantor say that they're going to have a repeal vote the week after July 4th. So we know that at least in those races and on the Hill, it's going to keep going. Yeah,
the Hill will definitely keep hitting that theme. Romney will keep hitting that theme with an argument that here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get rid of it. Don't look at what I did. Here's what I'm going to do. He has an argument also that, there's a state issue in Massachusetts and he would have never done it federally. That's been litigated to death already.
How about voter turnout? The conservative spin has been all day that this is going to gin up their base and that their people are really going to come out. Is that spin or is that genuine?
Right now, it seems genuine. Again, we're in June. Who knows what's going to drive up before November? But you can't really argue with that. I mean, basically, when you talk to both sides yesterday, both sides, in terms of get out the vote issues, were ready to seize on a decision that went against them. So if the side that lost was going to have a better argument to its base, Tea Party now highly motivated to go out there. We'll see. There's a lot of campaign to go, as I keep saying at this stage of the game.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks.
I'm joined now by Ben Smith, editor-in-chief of BuzzFeed.com, who is going to be teaming up with us on Timescast this election season. So, Ben, it was kind of a mess on Twitter early today. There was particularly a firestorm about this CNN headline, which was up on their site that the mandate had been struck down, and Twitter went crazy.
Yeah, I mean, CNN wasn't the only one to get it wrong, but I think
they visibly got it wrong.
They got it very wrong, and it
for a long time
metastasized through Twitter and through social media with this incredible speed. I mean, one of the really striking things was that all of these politicians who had these canned responses ready to roll just kind of hit send on their prepared tweets. Darrell Issa, Buck McHugh, and various members of Congress celebrating this outcome that they then had to reel back. And Dennis Ross said, "Let freedom ring."
And then some of these, they just had to try to pull some of these back,
Yeah, they deleted
right?
a lot of these tweets very quickly, but there's now the Sunlight Foundation is a service that actually just looks for deleted tweets and saves all of those from politicians, so they really can't win.
Right. How about the political spin so far on Twitter? Like, what have been the big messages on both sides?
Yeah, I mean, they had both the Obama and Romney campaigns, and their allies had obviously held many hours of meetings on exactly how to play it. This was, I think, not one of the outcomes anybody quite expected, that they would call the mandate a tax, but very quickly you saw the Republicans out with a message. The RNC spokesman, the Supreme Court today ruled that Obama broke his pledge not to increase taxes. I mean, valiant
Right.
effort there.
Picking
And
up
then
on the tax
The
thing.
Democrats immediately were ready with Neera Tanden, the president of the Center for American Progress. If you call the mandate a tax increase, then Mitt Romney increased taxes in Massachusetts.
Right. It makes it a muddy thing for them.
Right, and I think these are the outlines of the debate, very, very quickly set, that you're now going to see going forward for the next several
Right. And it
months.
was interesting because it wasn't just a straight sort of victory lap and
Nope, it was already on to the conflict,
to
the spin.
to the next
Absolutely.
step of it. Beyond the sort of Beltway world, what was the kind of popular universe of social media today?
Shockingly, people went totally insane and said wildly over-the-top things. We had a post of 27 people who think America died today. Kayla Ferris thinks that America is doomed. Ben Shapiro says it is the greatest destruction of individual liberty since Dred Scott. This is the end of America as we know it. Steve here is prepared to go to war against radical liberalism. I mean, I think you see this sort of gut reaction. The United States of America as we know it is dead. That was a fairly common reaction on the right. Other people went a little further and
Went further than America's dead.
in fact, or maybe because
the universe
America
is dead. Yeah.
They're moving to Canada.
Oh, there you go.
That was a fairly kind of, forget it, I'm moving to Canada. I'm not sure they
Understand their healthcare
thought
policy
through.
there. Yeah, I don't
And
know.
sometimes, I mean, sometimes people are joking.
Did there seem to be like one group that seemed more organized than another in terms of Twitter today? In terms of getting their messages out? Was everyone kind of ready to go, or?
I mean, I think people were too organized. That's sort of what happened, right? I think, particularly in the media, everybody had all their pre-written plans, and this may not have quite fit it, and it was a little confusing and complicated, and people just kind of hit send anyway. And I think that's a real danger when I think you saw a little over-planning going on.
Right. I think there was this idea that today was kind of a great Twitter day, but it was in some ways a real cautionary tale day
Absolutely.
for Twitter, right?
I mean, I was definitely sitting watching the tweets flow by, just kind of laughing at times. I mean, it was an amazing thing.
Other than the sort of tales of the apocalypse, was there anything that particularly struck you?
I mean, the people who said they were moving to Canada, and whether sometimes people are confused, they're just not very bright. It's hard to know what's going on out there.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
That's all for today. Stay with us online for more on the healthcare decision. I'm Megan Lieberman. Thanks for watching.